1. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Reactor Live session today. This session is going to be based on Flow in an hour. So we are joined today with John Liu, who is a Microsoft MVP, and he will be taking us through a couple of hands-on labs. So if you want to follow along with us today, I have popped the link in so you can sign into your Power Automate tenant account if you do have one. I'll also post a link in the chat as well. If you don't and you want a community account, we can do that for you. If you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A and John will be able to answer them throughout the session and maybe after each lab as well. We will have this session recorded if you do want to come back to it, and it'll be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel, which I'll pop the link in the Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over now to John Liu. Thanks, John.
Hello. Hopefully you can see my screen. My name is John. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Office 365 and also in the Power Platform. So I've been working with Flow. It used to be called Microsoft Flow. Now it's called Power Automate. I've been doing that for quite a while, for several years now. The purpose of this hour is really to test a virtual format of having there is a flow training called Flow in a Day. And I kind of want to introduce this training, and because we only have an hour, we don't have a day. I would like to go through maybe the first 2 or 3 labs from the Flow in the Day training. So this is a hands-on lab if you want to follow along, and so if you're following along and a step I'm going too fast or you're not seeing the same result, just yell out. But otherwise, the whole thing is recorded. So if you want more time in one lab and you want to check that against the kind of, think of it like watching a cooking show, right? Like if you see, oh, what did John do there, and so on. So I try to call out places where I think there are new ideas. You can extend this area to do other bits and so on. So give you lots of ideas about where you can kind of extend or customize from this template and make that flow work for you. So there's one more slide. So a few links here. To access your Power Automate account, go to flow.microsoft.com. Log in with your tenant account, and this depends. If you have a company account, you might want to try that. That's usually good. Flow is Power Automate is usually available through your Office 365. So if you have a company account, you can try that. If you have an educational account, so if you get Office 365 through education, maybe through your school or through your university or college, you can try that as well. So use your student ID to log in. And I will probably just copy that. Oopsie.
No problem, John. I've actually popped that in the Q&A for everyone already.
Oh, cool. So yeah, so if I go to flowmicrosoft.com, you'll do a little redirect, and then it will land you on. I'm actually in a preview environment, but normally in the normal environment. Hold on, let me just double check. So normally in your default environment, you will end up on a URL that looks like australia.flow.microsoft.com. Okay, but this is very much related to your company. So if your company is Australia based, you'll most likely redirect here as the default URL. Otherwise, if you're part of a international company and your account is not in Australia, then that could potentially be US or Europe. But if you go from flow.microsoft.com, it will redirect you to the right place. For me, it's Australia. Okay. Now, for me personally, I'm actually going to run all my demo in the preview environment, which is just so it has more space for me to work with. And that's there. Let me hide that. And then the second link is the Akka MS flow in a day. Okay, so go to that URL. Oops. Yeah, go here. /flow in a day. And flow in a day will redirect you to a repository, a public repository in GitHub called Power Automate in a day now. And there is one repo called Training by the Community, and it's produced by Serge Luca. Serge Luca is a long-time Flow Power Automate MVP based out of Europe. He is nicknamed the Flow Doctor. So I'm the hacker guy. He's the guy that fixes everything. So Flow Doctor. And currently they are working on version 9. Version 8 is the one that we are going to do this today. Version 9 they're working on, and version 8 was published end of June. Now go to the PDF folder, and Lab 0 is about setting up. So if you don't have a Flow license and you need to create one through the community license, and there are steps in Lab 0 on how to get that going. We will start from Lab 1, okay? And Lab 1, if I grab that file, this is a PDF file. And depending on your browser, it might be able to render the file inside here. Otherwise, you can hit download, grab the file, and then just reopen it in the browser. Okay, so this is a PDF file. And just very quickly to review here, let me go back. You'll see, because it is Power Automate in a day, there is a total of 15 labs. So a lot of content, a lot of step-by-step instruction. Each lab has a lot of pictures telling you what you can see and what you can expect to see. So a lot of material to go through, and this can be done. You can follow along individually, but usually this is presented in a full day training. So when I taught Flow in a day in the past, we will do maybe lab 1 to about lab 8, and then in the probably in maybe by mid-afternoon we'll finish about lab 8, and then we'll take a peek between lab 9, 10 to 15, and that's usually these are bigger pieces. They are bigger scenarios, and we will pick maybe 1 or 2 in the classroom, and people will split into groups to follow 1 or 2 of these big scenarios. So these are far more complicated. That will take a lot more time. I do not actually believe it is possible to cover all 15 in 8 hours. So don't feel stressed out that, oh, this is supposed to be 8 hours. I'm only up to lab 9. If you get to the lab 9, that's very good already. So yeah, let me just, so that's kind of a word of encouragement. Lots of free training that you can do to dive into different areas. But we'll start from the beginning for this hour. We'll start from the building time tracking flow. And while I'm talking, I hope you've downloaded the file and actually all got started, because I'll just keep going at hopefully a good pace. And then, and if you have any questions for me, you can pop that into the chat. But here we go. So to start, actually, the first flow is to create an instant flow from blank, and we're actually going to write to an Excel file. So what I can do, I will go over to my very quickly, go to my Office 365, go to my OneDrive, and then I'll create a file here. You can create it anywhere. I'll just create it at the top level, so it's quick. And we'll call this, we're gonna call this flow in an hour. Let's just call that. So that's how I save the file. And then I need a few columns. to create a table with where, who, when, and comment. Where, who, when, comment. Okay. Select these four, go to data. Oops. I'm doing this all in the browser, so I'm like, where is my where insert table? Here we go. So does that turn it into a table? Let me double check. Insert table. Okay, here we go. Yep, in this range, my table has had this. So these are the table. Okay, so in Excel, there is this concept of a table. You could say this group of cells forms a table, and the table has column names and rows, and that's what this is. Okay, so that's already saved, and I think that is page 1. Then, yeah, created the table, and then we head over to flow. Come over here, we're gonna go to new, create an instant flow. We're gonna use the button trigger and create, and that is our first flow. Now, I am gonna put this PDF on my laptop screen, which is just underneath here. So I can scroll here while I change this flow up here, okay? So here we go. So we have that, we have an instant flow. And here is basically, if you have never built a flow before, this is really the starting point. Every flow has a trigger, and it starts with some sort of trigger. In this case, this is a button. So it is an action that we will manually start, and it will run this automation. And then the step we want to do is to do this, add a new action, and we want Excel. You want to pick the one that says Excel Business. If you're doing anything in Office 365, you need the bracket business. If you're doing anything in your personal OneDrive, so your Hotmail account that has a OneDrive, then you can use this. Sorry, let me pop over here. Then you can use this other connector. Okay, so this differentiation basically, it's the same connector, but one is for Office 365, and that goes through a certain API endpoint, and then the other one is going through your personal OneDrive. And that's for personal OneDrive accounts, so Hotmail account, Hotmail, Outlook accounts, they go there. Company, education, they go through this one. Okay, I might just put this on the side because it's nice to review this. And then once we select Excel Online Business, we want to add a row to a table. So here we want to add row to a table. We're going to select the file. And here we're going to go and look for where our file is. Is it still thinking? So it is from my OneDrive. Select that. It is in the base document library. So it's just the OneDrive document library. And then, oops, and then I need to pick a file. So hopefully you can find your file here. I'll flow in an hour. Now, okay. So, and then you'll see here, it says this, you'll show a table. So if you don't see a table, then you may not have created this table. So create this table with the 4 columns. And then once Flow is able to see the Excel file, see the table, then it will pick out that there are 4 columns in there. Okay. Now we need a few more things to set up this flow. So that's that. We're gonna do the dynamic value in a second. And just very quickly going explain this. So for where, we're gonna put the full address from this trigger. For who, we're gonna use our name. For when, we're gonna use a timestamp. I think that's the first three. Okay. So here, click this. This is from our trigger. So any of the previous actions, the who, the where is gonna be full address. The who is gonna be your name, and then the when is going to be timestamp. And we're gonna call this flow our lab 1. Okay, that's how we rename our flow, and we can save this flow. And then they start this flow here. So a couple of ways you can start this flow. From the editing screen, you can actually click test and just start here. This is probably the easiest way to start the flow because you don't leave the designer. You can kind of test, change it, and test some more and build it as you go. Alternatively, if you are no longer in the designer, make sure you save first. So you may be on the kind of the flow details about this flow. You'll talk about this flow uses Excel Online for Business. It's created by John. From this screen, you can hit the run here, which will start this flow. Now, when the first time you click to run a flow, it will check whether you have a active connection to flow. Another one that I want to mention is this. See this, the browser is asking that Microsoft Flow, this website, wants to, you can actually see it, but it's actually asking to understand my my location, my geolocation. And there's a reason, and I will allow this. There's a reason for this. The flow button trigger, this is the trigger, the blue trigger that we use. The flow button trigger is a trigger that can appear in your mobile phone. So if you have the Flow mobile app, you can create, this button trigger will appear as a flow that's in your mobile phone, and you can pin that to your phone's screen, like a home screen, whether it's iOS or Android. And then in the future, if you want to start the flow, you just tap that icon. It will just run this automation. So the trigger has information regarding the person, that is you, that's triggering the flow. It has information regarding the time that you take the trigger, but it also asks to have some idea of the location. So if it's on your phone, it will be borrowing the GPS location. If it's on the browser, which is what you see here earlier, it asks you to grant that permission. That allows the browser to have a good guess of where you are, and then the flow will borrow that information. So if I click this now and hit run, and and go into this run, hopefully, yeah. So hopefully that's hopefully it's successful for you. But if I expand it, you will see wow, but hard to read. There are more outputs. If I show you all the outputs, that's the geolocation. Now, this is actually not my address. I actually live in Lidcombe. So it's an approximate address of my, I don't know, maybe the person that had my IP address used to be in Barola. I don't know. But I don't live here, so I could tell you this is not my address. Yeah, but the user, the time, and so on. Where's the time? Yeah, there we go. Timestamp is that one. Anyway, but what Flow has done is then, because we've put those connections, we put those values from the trigger into Excel. It's called the Excel action, put the address, the name, and then the timestamp, and send that into Excel. So if we go over to see our Excel file now, you actually see because Excel has co-authoring, so as Flow is updating Excel, you could see the values change kind of in real time. So if I just drag this out a little bit, let me extend that back a little more. Okay, so that's the first part. Then let's continue with this flow. So hit edit again. The next step is we want that timestamp to be a little bit nicer. We don't want that to be such an ugly time. And we're going to do that with an action called convert time zone. Okay, so what we'll do is here, we add a new action in between. We say convert time. So convert time zone is in this, here we go. Now the time that we want to convert is the timestamp, which is that. And the original source time zone is always in UTC. So UTC is a machine time. We users, we humans, we live in our local time, right? So you may be UTC plus 10, plus 11, plus whatever, plus 8 for New Zealand. So let me just quickly browse so you can see that. But for machine to be consistent, the machine time is always done in UTC time. So that means as far as APIs go, when you send messages from one system to another, the machine always uses the same coordinated time, which is the UTC time. But for humans, we need to live in our time zone, otherwise we don't understand what that time is. So we're going to turn that time into this time. But we're also going to make it nice and pretty. So rather than, we're going to use a format that's, what's a good one? Let's go with that one. That's a pretty one. Now let's go with that one. No, I want the time. So let's go with that one. Okay. And then we can expand this. We can delete this part. And we can use the output. So in Flow, every action or every place where you can put in a variable, you can use any of the output values from any of the actions before. So we don't want anything from the trigger this time. We wanted the output from the convert time zone. So we'll take that and put that here. And I think there's one more thing they want us to do. Right, that's to save the time. Let me save that. And the flow runs really quickly, 2 seconds. If I pop over to flow in an hour Excel, you'll see now the day has been inserted, but it's inserted in a nice format. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, let me go on. Now, 1.3 is an optional one. If you have the Flow mobile app on your mobile phone, then or you can install from your Android or iOS store and run the Flow mobile application. Then what's the next? Yeah, go and find the Microsoft Automate. Microsoft Automate. Wait, let me double check. I had it installed when it was the old name and it was called Microsoft Flow. So let me double check. Yeah. So it's too bright. I cannot see. But It's called Power Automate. So that's wrong. There's a feedback. That is called Power Automate mobile application. But basically, log into the same account, and then you should see on the front screen where you go to buttons, then you will see your flow button, which for me will be flow hour lab, like this. And if you tap on it, it will start and execute that flow. Now we want to do one more change to it, which is to change the flow. And now we want to add a comment. So the idea of this app is designed, I guess the lab was written at the time where we go out a lot more than we do now. But if you're visiting a customer or you're visiting a site and you need to tap this application and it just logs that you arrive at the site. So think of it as a checking system. Think of it as maybe you want to leave some notes for this current location. So we're gonna change this trigger now, and we're gonna add and the trigger by default doesn't require any additional input, but we can make it do so. So we can say we want additional input. We want, say in this case, a text. It's gonna be, let's change the name. We're not gonna call it input. We're gonna call it comments. Okay, and then there is a little helper text. You can change what that one that is. And then over here, you can actually make this field optional or required. Okay, so we'll make it optional. Actually, we'll make it required first. And then I can collapse and hide this. Then if I come to comments and pick out comments, where's comments? Here we go. So comments. So this comments refers to this new field that I've made. And let me just show you. If I start this flow now, see how it says, hey, I need a comment, right? This comment is also required. You actually cannot start the flow without putting in a comment. So I'll just do one that says, this should be my third check-in. Let's run that. And that's looking well. So we see the comment has been inserted. Additionally, you can also change it and say, well, that comment is optional. So let's show you that. And if we start, you'll see the comment is no longer required. You don't have to provide a comment. So it could be just you just want to check in, but sometimes maybe you want to say something like, I was doing this and that here. So you can run that. If you don't provide, oh, why is it unhappy? It's unhappy because the comment is actually it didn't provide. Oops. Sorry, I did not know that it would do this. Well, this is extra content. That is really lousy. Okay, all right. I'll tell you how to fix it, but this is probably advanced mode. The expression is this expression. You learn about expressions in lab 4, so we're skipping ahead a little bit. What this is saying is oh wait, hold on. I know why. If I get rid of this, and if I add the comment again, no, not good. Okay, I need to fix the file expression. Sorry. This basically says we need the text property from the trigger, which is this, from the body output of the trigger. Now, because we make the comments, which is text, not required, it's optional, we need to put a little question mark here. Okay, so just copy that, paste it in here, and get rid of this. Okay, so it's nearly the same thing, but slightly different. With Flow, you can always run with a previous trigger. So if your trigger was some sort of event, like you receive an email, you will send yourself an email first to trigger that flow so that you can see it. But subsequently, and while you're changing your flow and updating it, you can use one of the previous events and say, oh, just restart it using that previous run. Okay, so that's that. You see that's successful. Comments is null for that one. So you see the comments empty for this one. Okay. And I think that may be lab 1. I think that is lab 1. Modify it to add the comments, save and run. And now when you run, it's asking for a comment field. Also, if you are executing from your mobile, then the comment will be required as well on the mobile. Okay, so that is lab 1. I have a question. Let me quickly check. Can you share a flow for someone for some of the actions who doesn't have a Microsoft Flow account? Okay, yeah, sure. I will zip up all the flows. So what I can do is at the end, I could with Flow, I could export them all as zip files. So I will zip up all 3 labs, my results, and then if you want to see my solution, you can go to your Flow account. You can do import, and then you could take the zip file that I've uploaded, and that will recreate my flow, but in your environment. Okay, so I will probably this thing that's taking some time to pop up could be because I'm in preview, but basically it's a dialog that says upload your zip file. Yeah, here we go. Upload your zip file. And once you upload the zip file, it will start a wizard that says, okay, this flow needs an Excel connector. Do you have one? Select it or create one. Okay, so that's kind of importing. So that's lab 1. Just double checking no other questions. Then we're gonna run off to lab 2. Lab 2 is more of a business scenario, and we're going to build an automation that is a travel approval. Now, I don't really know. You can almost tell that the lab examples are done prior pandemic, because travel approval probably right now is an automatic no. But I don't know. Maybe that is something that your company currently really needs. And what we know from many companies right now is during the pandemic, a lot of business processes are becoming automated. People have to build workflows because in the past it would have been a piece of paper you sign and or email that you send it to someone. But because we have a lot less physical interaction, a lot of these processes are becoming digital. So this might be your first lesson, first exercise to build an approval using Flow and Office 365. So yeah, this will be a fun one. So let's come back to Flow. Now the second example, let's just very quickly look at it. It basically says go to a SharePoint site and then create a list. Now, if there are a few ways you could do this exercise. If you have access to a SharePoint site, any SharePoint site, maybe I just go there. Damn it, wrong place. Yeah, go to that site. So if you have or maybe I just create one real quick. Oops. This is my own personal demo tenant, so you see a lot of random content. Let's just create a team site. It's gonna be called flow in and out. Okay. So we just created a SharePoint site, and here you can create a new list. Now, there's another way to do this. If you may have access to something that's new in Office 365 called lists, and this is not everybody have it yet because they're still rolling out. But if you go to a list, you'll see this experience, and you could just create a list this way as well. So either you have Microsoft List and you can go through this way, or you have SharePoint site and you create it from here. They'll end up on the same experience. Ensure your name is unique. So this is called travel approvals. I'll call it travel John. When the flow in the day is designed as a in-person kind of group training, generally these sites are created so everyone works in the same site. So the sample will say use your name because the idea is that lots of people in the training will be all creating their separate lists. So we created a list called Travel John. We need a column for currency. Add 2 columns, amount and status. So that currency, and then the other one single line of text. Okay, so we need to create a column. It's gonna be currency, and we're gonna call it amount. And I'm just gonna leave that all blank. Yeah, okay. And then the other one is a single line of text called status. Put that here. Here we go. So title, amount, and status. Okay, and then so we have this list. Then let's come back to, let me copy this. So let me come back to my flow now. And this time we're creating a new flow, and it's gonna be called an automated flow. So let's start with here. And this one is actually the event. Which one are we using? So we're double checking. It's called when an item is created. Okay. So SharePoint when an item is created. When an item is created. That one. Here we go. And we can give that a name. Flow Hour Lab 2. If the site that you're thinking is not here, you can go to where is the custom. Oh boy. Hmm. Hold on a sec. When item is created, so let's try that again. Let me come back to that action because I need to let's do so explain what I'm doing while I'm attempting to find this. Usually there is an option here that lets you pick another URL, but for some reason it's not appearing for me, which is kind of super annoying. Yeah, see, I don't want that. I want to be able to specify a new URL. So what I'm going to really do really quickly is I'm actually going to try toggle one of this. So in the settings here, there is a Power Automate setting, and this thing is on, experimental features. Let me pop that off for a sec. Yeah, that's the URL. So what I've done is this style of the UI, this is the old style, I guess, the classic style. And then the experimental is the new style. The new style is better most of the time. Just there are still a few areas such as this where it's not ideal. So once I plug that URL in, now when I say, okay, which list do I want to listen to? I want to listen to Travel John. Let me get back to this. I might have to hurry up a little bit. So when item is created, we're going to go there. We need to create an item called start and wait for an approval. So let's do that. And then the approval type is called first to respond. And when you pick the type, some of the required fields for that type will appear. And this will be called please approve this humble travel request. And it will be assigned to the email address. Okay. So I'll just send it to myself. Here we go. Pick that up. And it says a bit more about the details. Let's have a look. Okay, so you want the following expense, destination, amount. Expense, destination, following requests is being submitted by. So that I assume is the title. So from the content editor, we can take properties or values from the previous trigger or action and put them in the flow. Put that there. Put amount. Where is amount? Here we go. Amount is the field that we created, and it was submitted by the person. What was the created by display name? That's very good. Okay. Yeah, you can. If you're using the new experimental mode, you can do. It will show this UI underneath where you can insert created by display name, and then we also want here a link to the item. So link to the item. So that for the SharePoint trigger, that's a URL to that item that gets created. And do we want a description? We don't. And then we have a condition and then an update to approved or rejected. So here we have a condition. So in the control condition, we say if the output, so if the outcome of the approval is approved, then we want to update. Update item. The same site. Where is it? Not here yet. Travel. And then this one, because we want to reselect that row, we say it's the ID. You need the title, so pick the same title, but we want this to say approved. Okay, and then in Flow, what we can do is we can copy this action, take it over here, go to clipboard, and then paste it here. And now you have this action copy here, and you say this is rejected. Just double checking that I've got all your questions answered. Oh, I have a question earlier from whether the trigger was from which device. We can look at that. Not easily. Yeah, I'll have a check with you in a sec. So let me save this, and then I'll show you how this works. So now this flow triggers from the SharePoint list. So if I come here, let me back out of here. So if I come here and then I create a new item here, maybe, and it says this is travel. So I like to visit. Where's not lockdown? The Opera House. No. The office. And I need $10 too. So let's start with that. Then if I pop over to the flow here, and I might just refresh it a few times and see if it's picked up. Hasn't found it yet. Successful runs, checks. Checked a minute ago. Oops. Oh, it failed. Why did it fail? Ah. Oh, oops. This is actually a problem that's, I'm very sorry about this one. This is a problem that's related to my environment. This environment that I made the flow, it doesn't have a approval database, so you can't do it. I'm very sorry. I should have done this in my other environment. Let me quickly show you what that's supposed to look like in another environment. We're sorry about this, and we're kind of we might run a little bit over time, but I do want to show you this. Yeah, and let me just. I actually have to delete one of my other flows to get it to work. Let's delete that. So automated when item is created. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Show a really quick trick. So if you're editing flows, you can create a scope. Scope is like a container for actions. So if you have a lot and lots of actions, you can create scopes and kind of collapse them. So it helps you visualize what your flow is doing. You can also copy an entire scope to clipboard. Take it over here and fingers crossed, Control V to paste. And that will bring those steps over. Now this needs to be fixed up. Why is it unhappy? It wants a active approval. So that's all hooked up. What about these two? They all look good. Just double checking the connections. They all look good, and that is Flow Hour Lab 2. Well, that's saving. Let's pop over this one. So I currently have two flows listening to the same SharePoint list. Not a good idea, so let me turn that off. Pop back to this one. That's saved. Okay. So let's try that again. Let's delete this one. Need more money for coffee shop. So let's put that in. And let's come over here. Okay, so a few things has happened. When I created that record, the second record to visit the coffee shop, it's created this trigger. If I quickly scroll down, no, not enough info. Yeah. And then what's happened is it started an approval, and the approval sends an email to me. So if I show you my email, which probably not a safe thing. So there's a few places you can see the approval. It appears in the email. You can see it in the approval section here. So if you're within the web application or if you're within the mobile application, you can see that approval has been sent to you. Here we go. Please approve this travel request. And you'll see a few other things. You see, so this will be this will be in the email that I sent. Let me see if I can show the email. So this is the email that I was sent. Sent from Microsoft. It's requested by John. This is the email. There is a link to the SharePoint item. So that's the link. And these are the properties from that SharePoint list that's been copied down. Now, with these approvals, they are sent in a format that's called a card. So within the card, you can hit the approve or reject buttons directly from within the email. You can also go to this URL, which will take you here. And then you can respond to this. You can say, yes, this is approved or approved. This is rejected. No travel. So hit that reject. If I come back to the flow, you'll see that this flow has received a response. So then this action finishes. It's got a feedback that says rejected. And the condition says, yep, it's not approved. So it comes here. And then it's updated the item with the rejected status. So if we go back to here, you will see the status is now rejected. Okay, so this is a very good pattern to start building your company workflows that require some sort of human approval. So yeah, so that's the second lab. Let me quickly check the questions. Is there a way to know whether the flow was triggered from which device? There might not be, so we'll have to have a very quick look. In here, back to flow run, and look at this one. No. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not 100% certain. I will probably compare the signal. So to answer the question, which was whether the flow was triggered from mobile or from a desktop, I will probably look into the header from the trigger to see if there's a difference between how it was called. There is references here referring to the referrer URL. That to me implies this was a web-based call. I'm not sure, what it's like if it's triggered, say, from a mobile. I could follow that up and then make a blog post to let people know. Is there any more questions? There was a few more. I was hoping we'll get to 3 labs, but it looks like we might just have time for only 2. Let's see. Can we capture who approved it? Can approvals be delegated? Multiple approvals in serial and parallel. Okay, let's answer all this. These are all great questions. Can we capture who approved it? Let's come back here. So let's say we change this and say, let's add a person. We can probably use a person field, but I'm just gonna cheat and use a text approver. Okay. And if I go to, which one was it? This was that one's lab 1, so that's lab 2. If we were to change this, now I noticed one thing earlier, so I didn't change this, but the condition I said the outcome is approved, it's actually the word I think is approve. Yeah, so just wanted to make that change. And here we go, that's the new field that I've just added. From the approval, you can actually see the approver. So the response approver name. So that's, oops, what is going on? Okay. Let me delete that and then let me explain what just happened. So this approval, remember your approval can be sent to multiple people. So it's possible, and the rule that I selected was the first to respond will finish. But sometimes you have approval where you want everyone to respond. So then the response from the approval is actually an array. So the output of this responses is actually an array. So we can quickly do a compose. Compose is like a builder. So we can quickly see there we go. All of the responses. Okay. And then what else do we need to fix? We need to fix a little bit here. So to then I could do a next step, which is called a select. This is kind of a select is in about lab 4. You can say I want the responses, which is response. Where is it? Further down, yeah, responses, and then don't use this. Use this text. Oh, I don't know why that thing's so far out, but it calls out text mode. It's kind of an advanced mode. So select that. Go down to where is the thing? The response approver name. Yeah, here we go. So what that does is the response is an array. It's an array of maybe one or many responses. Each of the response then has a responder display name, right? So you could be getting multiple names, one or many. So what we're doing is we use the select to say loop through that array and pick out this value. So we end up with an array of names. And then follow that up with another one. Is it called data? Join, here we go. So join these names and just join them with comma. Yeah. So otherwise you get this silly apply to each. The apply to each happens because it thinks, oh, the responses are array, so I need to loop through each one. But we don't actually need to do that. We're just gonna use the output from the join. Okay, so that's good. I might do that real quick here too. So if I can I restart this? Yeah, I could quickly just restart from the previous one. And this one is gonna ask me to approve again. The requester and responder is both me in this case. So yeah, please approve. Yes. Yes. You see that's approved. And then, so we rerun it on that item. It's now updated with approve and the approver is captured. Okay. And if I quickly show you this, you see the select takes the output. See, this is the responses, but there's only one. So looping over the outer array, we picked out the display name into an array of strings. And then we join it together with the join. That turns that. If there are multiple names, so maybe John and Mark, they both approved, then you get a John, Mark in this, which gets written back to SharePoint here. Okay. Let me quickly scroll down. More questions. So we capture who approved it. Can approvals be delegated? Approvals cannot be easily delegated. I'll bring up a email. Sorry. So there is a flow approval escalation. And there is, this is something that Serge Luca wrote quite a while ago. Here we go. Serge Luca. Yes, tiny pictures. But I'll share a link. This is not the right one. Oh, time out. Yeah, so there's a few links. That one, the one that I like, which is the one from Serge Luca, a long time ago, is probably that one actually. Yeah. But basically, wow. Basically, in your approval here, not that guy. Yeah. So around this approval, which probably is around the whole scope, you put this scope into a loop, and you basically say loop until approved. And you can set this approval to say wait 5 days and then escalate, change the approval, and then have it assigned to the manager or have it assigned to someone else. So that's how we do approval escalation. Or you can also delegate manually. So if you are in here, you can actually say, okay, this one, I can't do it, reassign it to someone else. So this is kind of like a menu. We can say, I have a person in my company called Gandalf. So Gandalf is going to handle that approval. So I reassign that to him. So that one was a approval from 3 months ago. So I just assigned something 3 months ago to Gandalf. Yay. So yeah, so there is a manual way, and then the automatic way requires building the flow in a loop. Can multiple approvals in serial or parallel? You can build. This is related to this action. So I picked the one that says first must approve. Yeah. This one, first to respond. You can also pick some of the other template, the everyone must approve. So that one will happen in parallel. Everyone needs to approve. You can also actually build flows that have a parallel branch. So if you wanted a case where one of 2 people must approve, and then one of 10 people on this other group must approve, then you can build that with a parallel in that pattern. Okay, so imagine that you need both, and then down here is when you combine and say, if the left-hand side and the right-hand side are both approved, then continue. Okay, so you can build this type of flow. So there are different patterns. Flow gives us the ability to build approvals using more basic blocks, but there's a lot of flexibility in how you can combine these. Okay, so this will be a parallel approval. If you want a serial approval, you could put that down here. Right, so this approval loop need to finish, and then you start the second approval. So there's a lot of this pattern where you might say, you want your first level manager to approve something, and then you want to find your, let me add one more action here, just it's a very common one. So say here, there is an action called users, Office 365 users, and you can say get manager. So that could be just, that could be, and let's just get email. So the email of the created by, which in case is me, and this will get my manager, and then you can get the manager here. So this respond, and then it's assigned to the email of the manager. So this is the mail address of the manager. So this will be your second tier approval in a sense. Okay, so you could do that. Oh, what's title is required? And this, because it's one after another, this one is a serial, whereas you can build them in parallel as well. Not sure if there are any more questions. Yeah, maybe more questions. Maybe we just, so I would just encourage everyone to do the labs in your own time. Go through a lot more of this. Yeah, I would say to really learn flow, so we did 1 and 2. 3 is about notification. We did a bit of condition, so the condition branching. Then furthermore in lab 4, there are variables. Add a manager. So I kind of showed that you could add a manager. So I'm kind of skipping over the place. But go through the labs in detail. Will give you a very firm foundation of these steps. What happens when your task is overdue? If you want to generate a Word document, so you have a SharePoint list or you have an Excel list, and now you want to take those values and actually generate a Word document, or maybe create a PDF as a record. Or if you have interaction between Power Apps and Power Automate, so that's lab 8. Usually with a flow in the day training, we will get all the way up to lab 8. And then lab 9 to 15 is optional. You kind of have a look at it and pick which one kind of is your fancy, like which one will fit you more. So really highly encourage you to take this beginning and keep going. Go through all the way to lab 8 and go through all the steps. And that will give you a very firm foundation as a starting point about how to use flow, both as a manual trigger, so you can automate these jobs that you just need to do. Say you need to update a timesheet, or you need to send a message to someone in a hurry. Or if it's something that's like a business approval, where you're thinking about parallel approvals, individual approvals, and so on. Was there another link? There was another link. There's one more link, which is this one, and I'll just click it. This one is also a good material. This one is the Power Automate learning path on Microsoft Docs, and it's got various exercises you can follow through and click them. So again, additional exercises. If you have been following through Flow in a Day, you will know this one, probably the mobile, the notification. You wouldn't have done copy files, so that's interesting. Recurring flows on a schedule, sending emails on a tweet. I would be cautious. I would think these are a little bit longer than 5 minutes. There are 5 minutes if you really know flow and you click around. But I would say this is probably a 10-minute. These are probably around 10 minutes. And also troubleshooting techniques. That's actually very important. I kind of show a little bit of how I troubleshoot, like, oh, that fails and why did it fail? And then look at the data that feed into the action and why did that fail? Yeah, so yeah, and then kind of a little quiz to check that, what you assume is the correct thing. So highly recommend both these materials in your learning path to learn Flow and learn Power Automate. So both the Flow in a Day material, but also the Power Automate learning path material. Sorry, let me pass over back to Nadia.
Hi, Red. Thank you so much, John, for going through that. And just to let everyone know as well, the links that John did mention, I have put it in the Q&A. So I've put the link into Flow in a Day, which has all the modules. And I've also put a link in to read that docs article that John shared with us about getting started with Power Automate. So thank you everyone for joining our session. I've also popped a link in the Q&A if you want to leave some feedback. If you want to see a part 2 of John going through the modules as well, please let us know. When we do have your feedback, we can present some more content for you around this topic. So thank you everyone for joining. We hope you have a great day, and thank you so much, John, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.